busy weekend in the Garveys SuperValu County Championship. 4 quarter-finals, of course. We done the draw here a couple of weeks ago, and they became reality, and 8 became 4, and we'll discuss that. We have new county champions, of course, in the county as well, and to showcase those guys this evening, we'll be welcoming in Killard. Congratulations, Killard, Kerry Junior Camogie champions, who defeated, of course, Cosby yesterday at Austin Stack Park. So while the rest of the world was over in Killarney, the business of the Camogie Junior Championship was played, and we'll talk to them from 7:30. And I know, of course, yesterday was pretty miserable weather-wise, so you might have listened to Tim and Ambrose here with us on Radio Kerry. 2 very busy men, of course, all 4 games live on your local favourite radio station, and we'll have them all live again next week as well. I suppose while you're at, of course, on that vein, of course, a big well done to our 3 winners there last Friday at the Irma Awards. They were all suited and booted, of course, and they headed up to Kilkenny and came away with a few bronze awards. We couldn't afford suits for John Kennedy, of course, and Liam Brosnan, so we decided we'd leave it till next year, lads. And if you raise your game tonight, we might even get invited to Kilkenny next year. You never know. It's supposed to be a great night, so you never know. Say something controversial now tonight, John, and we could be there. And there's, of course, plenty to discuss. And if you want to join the conversation with us, as you normally do, and we'd be delighted to have you, give us a phone call, of course, or contact us on our local numbers. Of course, once I could find it, of course, the whole place has been moved around this evening. A lot of cameras and everything. We're under big pressure. 066 712 3666, of course, is the telephone number, and 083 300 3300. Well, look, lads, let's get down to it. Plenty to discuss. As I said, 8 became 4. Before we get into the discussion, Liam, we'll ask yourself first, what were your kind of main highlights of the weekend? You saw all the games. The football was only at an average enough level, I would have said. You know, the games, I suppose, the quarter-final level is about winning and getting over the line. There wasn't too many kind of exciting scores or managed. But pick one moment from the weekend for me.
I suppose, Donal, yeah, like you said, it's we're into the business side of the competition now, and I suppose the one moment that really stood out for me, I suppose, was Saturday night. I think when the whistle went for Field Rangers, myself and John were up in the press box, and we were looking down, and you see the emotion on the sideline of the management team. You know, and it's something that stood out to me. That's it kind of said, like, we're all praising the Field Rangers players and, you know, how well they're going this year. But I've no doubt this management team have put in such an effort, you know, to get them where they are. And they're probably on the phone every day to each other. Mm-hmm. And when you see the guys like the John James Buckleys, and I know Shane Kelly, the physical trainer, and you have Joby Costello with the coaches, and Billy Lee, and Inda Galvin, and all these fellas, and many more on the sideline. And it was great for them. And, you know, when I looked down and you saw them hugging each other, there was nearly tears in their eyes, you know, because they're after coming from nowhere. Because, like I said to you off air, Donal, I was outside in Listowel during COVID, myself and Timmy Minan were up in the stand. There weren't many at it.
You were on your own, actually.
And East Kerry kicked them off the field, and the following year was the same thing. So they're after raising it from the ashes, and I think these men deserve a pile of credit, as well as the players. But I think the sideline, and I think that's that stand-up moment for me, was when the whistle went, and the emotion and the celebration.
Yeah, and of course it's a good moment to pick, because you yourself, of course, was a manager involved in management in that whole setup as well, and that itself is a bubble, and it's its own little family, and it's a good point, because we don't often see that side. We talk about the players and we talk about them winning it, but obviously the whole structure behind it. John Kennedy, no love in from Field Rangers for you, hopefully, out to your weekend. You have to go somewhere else, really.
To be honest with you, Donal, I don't agree with him too often, but I have to agree with him. I thought it was a massive result for North Kerry football.
But you predicted it here last night.
I did.
It wasn't that massive.
I felt it would be, because I felt Stacks with the injuries and that, not taking away from Field Rangers. I felt they had a great chance, and it took them a bit to settle. You know, we mentioned Martin Stack here a few weeks ago. I mentioned him. Come at the old,
you didn't even know who he was.
Come at the man. He kicked some superb frees and from play, like to get the victory. And Barry Mahoney as well. But like Liam said, the management team, you know, guys that mightn't be too well known outside, like say Pat Barry and Conor Keane. Look, Kieran Quirk, former Kerry player, like those guys, Indy Galvin, the passion they bring, and the organisation that John James Buckley has brought. You know, he brought in Shane Kelly and Billy Lee, professional, great job. And it's a huge boost for football in the county in North Kerry, because, you know, it's a big division. A lot of negative talk over the last number of years, and rightly so. And it just goes to show, I've been saying for a number of years, that there's good footballers out there, but to harness the talent, get them organised, and look what they're after doing.
You need a structure as well.
You need a structure. And I think now they're after setting the yardstick now for Shannon Rangers. Follow on. There's a lot of talk about joining up. There was a meeting last week. Field Rangers are standing on their own, and I think it's time now for, there was a very good meeting out there. I was at it myself. A lot of influential guys at it. Every club represented. And I think that, it's time now to stand up and can we emulate what Field Rangers did? But it is about Field Rangers for me this weekend. Fantastic victory. They're in the semi-final, and if they didn't go any further now, it's a victory for North Kerry football.
Yeah, well, of course, look, I suppose they themselves are going to go as far as they want to. They have a semi-final to play. Come here, let's start with that game. So Field Rangers and Austin Stacks, and we'll discuss that for a couple of minutes. A lot of big moments in games, Liam, and obviously you're watching the game itself. For me, watching that game for long stages, it looked like neither of them really wanted to win it or couldn't really insert their own authority on the game. A couple of points ahead, then they were pulled back a couple of points ahead and the whole lot. But the big moment obviously was the goal in extra time, and teams get momentum in extra time that they don't normally have kind of in the game itself. Did you think at any stage going through that game, Stacks are in trouble here?
Probably they weren't pulling away, but even like John last week when he was even when I was away, I was thinking it was going to be a game that was going to be very close, because I've been saying it here probably maybe a bit too often, a couple of Stacks vibes, but I do think Stacks find it hard to score, and it proved it again the weekend. 12 points. At the end, they had chances and they were never going to pull away from Field Rangers, and you could see Field Rangers were getting a couple of frees. They were staying in the game. Now the only flaw I see with Field Rangers as well is they're finding it hard to score as well. They're very reliant on Martin Stack and probably Barry Manny to get a few scores. They kicked a lot of bad wides. They could have been the game could have been over before the extra time. But no, I definitely thought that when Field Rangers were hanging on to Stacks, and you'd be waiting to see who was going to get, and we said it above the thing, who was going to get the goal. Mm-hmm. The goal was going to be the turning point. And I must say the bench for Field Rangers, like Jamie McAvee that time, he came up the side and he created that goal. You had Rory Mann, he kicked 2 points. Darrell Lynch, 1-1. So that was a massive boost for Field Rangers.
John, they came into that game with 3 wins. I suppose over the course of the last couple of weeks we kind of maybe in a little way belittled the wins. St. Brendan's, we said South Kerry weren't great. We really should have known that when they went down to Temple and beat them at their ease in a game that they didn't need to win, that there was something there. But Austin Stacks would have treated them with fair respect, would have said, listen guys, these are hunting us. But when they were in the real fight, they couldn't get away from them.
No, they couldn't. And it was a tough, dire struggle. It wasn't good football. Mm-hmm. It wasn't pretty to watch, but they won't worry about that. And, I feel that they grew in stature as the game went on. Led at centre back by John McCarthy. I think Liam and myself were talking about him up in the press box, like a guy that has a lot of football played, but his experience, you could hear him urging on the lads around him, and the likes of Niall Collins. These are guys with inter-county experience. Eddie Brown went in at full back instead of Sean T when he got injured. He stood out the last night. He played very well. And Barry Mahoney, he's a guy that's people talking about him maybe going in with Jack O'Connor. They took the game on, and Liam said the bench is crucial. I think the impact off the bench, and the management weren't afraid to make the changes either. I think it improved it. It got them over the line. And Stacks, they've been great champions. They had a terrible year with injuries. Joe Connor was a massive loss to them. Brendan O'Sullivan likewise. Jack O'Shea is struggling in games. He started very well the last night, but Dylan Casey. So, they were under pressure. Wayne and the lads have a great job done with them, but it was Field Rangers night. We all saw what it meant to them afterwards, and a great victory.
Does the group stage setup coming after, we'll say, the Senior Club Championship, where these teams would have played really hard games, and then they go into a group stage where divisional boards will progress favourably because week on week they probably have more numbers, more players, they get to see more fellas, but it's reversed for clubs, because obviously we'll talk Crokes and we'll talk Stacks as well. They tend to lose players. A club team can't lose a player every week and come into a quarter-final and you're down 4 of your top players. You just can't succeed in this format, can you?
Yeah, look, they came off a very hard club championship, very competitive club championship, and straight into a county championship then. So you were talking maybe 10 or 12 weeks there of very, very competitive games. So guys are going to pick up injuries, and unfortunately for Crokes and Stacks, it was their main guys that picked up the injuries. And I suppose in the flip side of it, then with the divisional boards, it probably suits them because they're getting the couple of extra games under their belt to get going. If you're a club player coming into a divisional training session, if you have a bit of an injury, it's very easy to sit down and rest it maybe for a night or two. Whereas when you go back to your club and your down bodies already, to keep the numbers up, you're making the effort. So yeah, it was hard for the clubs. Now this county championship was hard for the clubs, and it has proven that with injuries.
Only one club left, of course. Let's talk about that club, of course. That was the second game there. Dingle won 18, Crokes 11 points. Obviously, one club was going to make it. The big talking point, obviously, before the game and in national media and the whole, was the return of Mark O'Connor. I mean, was he going to play? Was he not going to play? In fairness, I think Padraig Cochrane was quite candid. He was going to play, and they named him to play, and he did play, obviously. In around centre-back, some people were saying, they were hoping that maybe he was going to be a midfielder or full forward. They used him very functionally, didn't they?
He was everywhere, Donald, to be honest. He was everywhere. And what I was surprised about, and I was watching the warm-up, was his kicking. I thought his kicking might struggle because being with the different side, the different shape balls, but he was like Mark O'Connor never left. And it just shows what a loss he is to Kerry football. Big man, and a guy that is, his first option is to pass the ball. He's not a guy that wants to go through and kick scores, even though he kicked a great score and it lifted the whole place. But
it was a mad roar, wasn't it?
It was, but the delivery of the ball, and he makes the right decision the whole time. And for a guy that hasn't played football in so many years, he's a big addition to Dingle.
Now, of course, they have plenty Dingle. I mean, the Gainies we've praised many times. Mikey Gainey, I mean, for me, I thought he had an outstanding game the last night, John. I mean, we talk about all the rest of them, and the guys have been in and out with Kerry and the whole lot, and Mikey was there as well. But he's a guy that has rediscovered his form for his club, and not so much at the right time, because all the games he's played, he's been influential. It just seems to me that the Dingle players with the bigger names are really standing up, John.
There's no doubt, and if you're going to win, you need your marquee players playing well, and Dingle certainly have that. And like Liam said there about Mark O'Connor, these guys do all the simple things right. They make it look so easy, but they do the simple things. They don't force it. Mikey was outstanding. He's worked great. He was a link man. Tom O'Sullivan, centre back,
absolutely outstanding.
5 points. Absolutely incredible. He just glided through the defence, and he picked up and he mopped up, and he was in the right place at the right time. Paul Gainey, it's great to see these lads urging on. And if there's a mistake made, they're encouraging. You could hear them from the stand last night. A very impressive display by Dingle. Mark O'Connor, outstanding. Class player. Like Liam said, we spoke about it, said maybe the round ball and the kicking might come into it, but sure, look, he just settled in as if he had never left. And wouldn't it be nice if Jack O'Connor had him in his panel? A fantastic athlete. But Dingle put out a warning. This was an emphatic victory. Crokes are missing a few, we know that. They're in transition. But, this Dr. Crokes team were well beaten on the night. No excuses. And Dingle, hugely impressive. And well worthy of their victory in the end.
Yeah. Liam, I suppose much like the Stacks, I mean, you can't lose Gavin White, Micheál Burns, and a couple more with it, and kind of go out and be the best in Fionn Fitzgerald, of course, picking up his injury as well. We use the word transition, I suppose, and teams have to transition. I mean, Crokes have been kind of most people's favourites to win the county championship every year for the last 20 years, and well deserving of that as well. How difficult a time will they have now transitioning, or is it just simply the boys will be back again? I mean, obviously their inter-county players are injured for a short term or a long term. They will come back, but there is plenty of talent within that Crokes. I mean, if you look at the team, I mean, Cian McMahon has been a big find again. They always seem to find corner forwards, don't they? Talented ones as well. Mark O'Shea, I think, has been a find in the centre field for him as well, where they've been missing.
Michael Potts after coming into farm, Evan Looney. No, all these guys.
Mark Cooper,
they're young guys. They're a lot of young, and look, the Stacks of the Crokes are going to go nowhere. They might miss a couple of games here and there. But
the Stacks might go somewhere very soon. So
another conversation.
Another conversation.
But they have a conveyor belt they have numbers, and they have a conveyor belt and very good underage structures. So the guys that are coming up are always, they're always in the same wavelength and always the same thinking, and so yeah, I think the one thing for Crokes that's shown out for me the weekend was they're just physically weren't in the same position as where Dingle were. I think that even in the first 10 minutes, Dingle just launched the ball into Paul Ganey a couple of times, and you could see they knew there was a weakness in there. Like Niall Shea, Mike Micheál Potts, and John Payne aren't the biggest of men. Very tenacious on the ground and stuff. But no, these games will help the younger boys in both Stacks and Crokes. But Mark O'Shea is definitely one guy that I would be looking, maybe that Jack will probably bring in, because he's a big athletic young fella, great hands. Even when they put him in full forward last day, he did caused a bit of trouble in there. You could play him in a lot of places. Very intelligent footballer. So but as for Dingle, like John said, they are after firing a warning shot. Paul Ganey, we're on about being cute. He punched 3 of them over the bar. Another guy might have went for 3 shots. You have Shane Murphy, one of the best goalkeepers in the country, but Paul wanted to keep the scoreboard ticking over. Keep pushing Dingle on. If it was 3 saves, it might have given the boys a boost at the end of the field. But just that sheer cuteness and sheer, I suppose, class that he just punched the ball over the bar, put the ball down, we go again. They're things that are very hard trained. That comes natural, and Dingle have that inside, and they have Dylan Ganey and Barry O'Sullivan around the middle of the field. They have guys dotted all over the place. They're not reliant on 3 or 4 players. They have very good footballers over the field. So I think they'll be happy with last weekend. Will they be happy with the draw? I don't know, but it's going to make one hell of a battle on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll get to the draw, of course, later on. Dingle, it's with the exception, I suppose, Mark O'Connor arriving home, they're the same gang as last year. I mean, it was like a black and a white difference of 2 teams. Why so much form this year, John, and why so much belief?
I think they've really developed in the past 12 months. Like Liam said, their physical power, Barry Sullivan and these guys, they've even got stronger. You need your marquee players playing well, and they're leading by example. Paul Ganey's in the top of his game, Tom Sullivan. When you have Mikey Ganey, Barry Sullivan, it's very easy for the rest to follow on then. And their structure is good, their fitness, they're on a different level. They were on a different level to Crokes on Saturday evening. They were in control. Now, they played East Kerry back in Dingle a few weeks back. Nothing at stake, but they weren't that far off.
It was touchy enough, wasn't it?
So will they fear him? Maybe not. If you're going to win the championship, you have to play the best, and whether it's a final or a semi-final, it's going to be a huge game. But Dingle certainly have made strides. Tommy Griffin's involvement, I think, shouldn't be underestimated either. He brings in huge experience coming in from the Kerry set-up, and he's another big plus, along with Paddy Corkin and the lads. They have a great set-up there. Very professional. Watching them, the minute they came on the field, they all knew their roles, and you need that. And certainly they show that on Saturday night.
Like we said, Donal, earlier in a couple of shows, that Dingle are a team now where they're coming to the pile. It's coming to an age now. Paul Ganey didn't get any younger, Mikey Ganey didn't get any younger. These guys, this is their time. So I think that's a lot of it too, that they realise that we're only going to get maybe another year or two at this level. So
the roundabout can't go around forever.
Exactly.
They'll have to snatch it. Listen, they're the 2 games. We'll talk about the other 2 games, of course. Now, of course, we're talking about the 4 quarter-finals in the Garveys SuperValu County Championship at the weekend. 2 down, 2 to go. Game number 3, of course, Mid-Kerry and Temple-No. Liam Brosnan, this was a game either side could have really won. I suppose Mid-Kerry took a bit of charge. Temple-No kind of had their stance on it. But in the end, Mid-Kerry kind of showed that little bit more mettle, and they make it through to the semi-final. Did the result surprise you, or did the game surprise you?
Oh, I would have favoured Mid-Kerry coming into it, with the players that they had. Temple-No, I suppose I had this thing in my back of my head that Temple-No were kind of had one eye in a different competition as well, but they showed yesterday that they really went out to win that game. Gavin Crowley, I suppose, pulling out at the start, it was a massive loss to him as well. But yeah, look, Mid-Kerry got off to a bit of a start, and Temple-No made a good. It was kind of a game of runs, really. Mid-Kerry got a run, Temple-No got a run, Mid-Kerry got another run, and they kind of just held on. But going forward, I think Mid-Kerry won't be happy with that. I think up front they couldn't get the ball to stick really, and scoring 13 points. In fairness, now conditions weren't great yesterday for football. They were awful for football yesterday.
It was really kind of Mid-Kerry championship stuff in the second week of December. Kind of, the score was down. There was no real goal chances, and the ball just wouldn't stick really, would it?
Yeah, and footing was hard to. You saw a couple of guys there that they had the ball and they wanted to go, but the next thing they'd slip. But a couple of guys impressed me. I thought Keith Evans played very well now yesterday. From handled the pile of ball. Pat Kilkenny as well back back to his old best. Thought he did a very good job in Killian Spillane, kind of nullified him a lot, so yeah, look, Meath Kerry going into a semi-final against Field Rangers will, I think they'll be happy with that draw though.
Meath Kerry, I mean, they were there before, not too long ago actually. They're a side that are exceptionally well organised, John. Is the sum of their parts though better than the players they have? Because we will look through them and we'll say, we'll talk about East Kerry and we'll mention players A, B, C. We talk about Dingle, we mentioned the Gaines and the Thomas Hulls. The names don't roll off. But is that part of the magic that as a jigsaw puzzle put together, they're a really difficult team to play?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Donal. They're individually, they mightn't be outstanding, but as a group, they have a great team ethic. And stats aside with Sean Coffey, I think he's outstanding in goals,
He has had some championship. There was a few dodgy balls in yesterday, greasy ball going in. Yeah. He showed great composure, great hands. He seems to have loads of time. He doesn't seem to worry. Never panics. You looked like you say, "Oh my God, this is going to be a disaster." But no, he seems to ramble around at his ease, pick it up, and off he goes.
Yeah, Pat Kilkenny did a great job in Killian Spillane, like Liam said there. Outstanding, really.
Is that the experience of being an inter-county player? I mean, he was in with the panel. He's been there a couple of times, Pat Kilkenny. I mean, he's not there now, obviously, but all that experience builds you through to a situation where you have the experience to be able to mark a player like Killian Spillane.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and he had the confidence. He played from the front a few times there. A player with less experience mightn't. He'd be behind the man, but he had the confidence to come out in front, and he nullified Killian for most of the game, really, apart from a few flashes. I thought Darren Hoole in the middle of the field, he kicked a couple of great points for him. Rangy kind of a guy as well, box to box player. Ian O'Connor, very cute and great football brain on the 40, and Liam Carey maybe took a little bit out of the ball at times, but he's one of the main men up front for them, and they got over the line yesterday without playing well, and they'll be looking at the semi-final, like Liam said. They won't fear Field Rangers, and they'll be hoping they'll improve from yesterday.
And that Meath Kerry team, like Don, when you go through them, a lot of those guys have wore the Kerry jersey as an age as well. So I know they're not household names, maybe in a lot of houses, but we'd all know them, and you'd be expecting, what we expected yesterday. You'd be expecting a little bit more from fellas, and I think they have it in their locker. Yeah. So I think Meath Kerry be hoping for a dry day anyway, because I think they're a kind of a dry day team, like the Kieran Dennehy there and Kieran Kilkenny and Fiacre Clifford and these guys.
Fiacre Clifford for me, I thought was really catching yesterday in that game. He scored 3 points. I mean, people say 3 points in the whole lot, but on a day when it was hard to play football and you get nearly a quarter of your team scores from play as well, at times when you needed to score, and particularly the last couple of points, they could have won it for either side. Does it help them in a sense too that all teams in their district are together, that there's nobody kind of on the outside, they're not looking across? We'll say West Kerry have Dingle outside, and South Kerry are all together as well, but I mean, some teams have that outside, but they're all together. They seem to buy into the whole thing.
Well, it seems to happen this year, I suppose. There was a thing there a few years back with Lone Rangers and that kind of, but that seems to be after kind of coming together a bit now, and it might be after gelling them, but
like David Mangan is Lone Rangers, and Owen Clifford, of course, is there as well. Fiacre that we mentioned, and Garrod Hassett, of course, didn't he come off the Souls bench as well? I mean, so there's certainly plenty of good players filling there as well. John, is there an extra kick in them?
I think there is. They'd probably be disappointed maybe with the performance, not the result, obviously. But Timperlow were very dogged. You'd have to say they were difficult to crack. There was times we thought they were going to walk away with the game, but no, they came back into it, and they were led by Tyg Morley. He was outstanding at centre back. I think that Meath Kerry, look, it's all about getting to the semi-final. Yesterday's result, they can improve, and I think they have we're talking about management teams now tonight a few times, but this is a very astute management team. Peter O'Sullivan has a great job done, and Gary McGrath, Gary Murphy, two great GM, they have a nice set up there, and I think, like you said, they have the players. There's no outstanding guy, but they work very well as a unit. They play more like a club team, and they'll be disappointed deep down maybe with the overall performance, and it's always good going into semi-final or going into any game that the previous one you didn't play at your potential, and they'll be hoping to up it the next day.
And Timpenlow, like, you got to give them great credit, because we said just earlier before the break, you know, that the club championship and how hard it was on clubs and stuff like that. Like Timpenlow, numbers wise, they wouldn't be as probably big as the Crokes and the Stacks, and they're in the club final. And they're after getting to a quarter final of the county championship. You know, so it's been a fantastic year for them.
Great club players for the county too, because I was blowing Kilmare there, of course, on Saturday at the training of the Stars, and the Kilmare players and the Timpenlow players, and Graham Sullivan from Drummond was there, and there seemed to be a rake of hurlers there as well, and it was a fabulous day. Clubs came down, the gang trained them, and there's this kind of real belief that they're not really superstars, they're just club players to play for their club who accidentally or otherwise play for the county. It doesn't seem to make them any bigger than they are. Very ordinary fellas, and that comes true in a club like Timpenlow as well. When you see them play, they're playing for that jersey, aren't they?
They are, yeah, and you can see that yesterday when you look at the Spillans and Tig Morley and
when you see Tig Morley heading up the field, game nearly over, give me the ball, I'm going to take this on myself. Not looking to pass it left or right.
I'm the county player, I'll take responsibility here.
100%.
And not only that, like, I thought Brian Crowley was excellent yesterday. You know, there was guys, John Rice. They're a very, very good club team. And it's proven it this year, like that. They're in the club final. They got the county championship quarter final, and I think there's great credit to them for what they've done so far.
They might have one more big day out. Well, they might have plenty more big days out as it goes, but they've one to come, and we'll get to that as well.
Stephen O'Sullivan as well is another guy that's really stood out this year as well.
Absolutely, Kerry Jr. Now, the other game, of course, this was the game that everybody billed. You know, it was David versus Shawnee, Kilmare versus East Kerry. It was the game that was featured on television, of course, as well at the weekend. A lot of people watching it. Dare I say, John, it was just a ordinary old game, a bit of a dogfight. David Clifford, the difference, 7 points at his ease. He seems to be able to score points at his ease left and right. But Kilmare didn't make it easy for him.
No, there's no doubt. Great credit to Kilmare in defeat. You know, it's easy to say well done and all that, you know, but the bigger picture is that East Kerry are favourites to win the county championship, and people might say they're not firing in all cylinders, and you know, they don't know their best 15, and this guy's missing and that guy's missing, but you know, Kilmare, they dug deep, they worked extremely hard, and they were led by Dara Crowley inside the cornerback. You know, what a tenacious defender, never say die attitude, keeps going. Stephen O'Brien, Shawnee, you know, David Hallis around the middle of the field. Like, those guys, they died for it. They went in, they tackled, they hit, they harassed. Very unlucky, you know. I mean, if you were told before the game that Kilmare would be in it with 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, and they were in it, few tough calls, maybe.
Yeah, we have a couple of comments about those. We'll get to them. Don't worry, Liam. I'm keeping all the good stuff here.
You know, particularly the one, was it a penalty or not? Like the one off the post right at the end. This is at the death. Like, what a lovely floater in by Paul O'Connor.
Yeah, he done it twice there. It was just perfect ball in, inviting to come on to, and it just didn't happen really.
Another class act, Paul. Like, just a lovely touch in. It came off the post and went wide. But look, East Kerry won at the end of the day. Class is permanent. We've said it how many times. David Clifford, you know, he kicks some massive scores. Paddy, very, very good as well. You know, Ronan Buckley in the middle of the field. They have the players. Jonathan Lyon handling an awful lot of ball all day, you know, winning kick-outs. But Dan O'Brien, the wing-back, they're not firing in all cylinders, though, you'd have to say. They're just getting over the line.
They seem to be a team, and now in fairness to Jerry O'Sullivan, he keeps saying it after the game. He says this championship is a lot tighter than people think. People might believe me. That's Jerry O'Sullivan. Of course, David Clifford said after, we were lucky to get out of here, to be honest. We made a lot of mistakes. We keep making a lot of mistakes. They know it themselves. How worrying is it in that instant that they're still getting through and they're not firing in all cylinders?
Well, that's it. And I mean, James O'Donoghue missing yesterday as well. He has to come back into it. They're still winning. Dara Roach is another guy that deserves mention.
He had a big game yesterday, didn't
he? When they needed it, he kicked a couple of great points. But look, it's the sign of a great team, and it's the sign of champions, really. Even though they're not the reigning champions, they're getting over the line. And I suppose what will happen the day they hit it, Liam, and that
we're all waiting for this explosion to happen. But
they will fight. Yeah. I think it'll be a ding dong battle with Dingle. Will be.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Liam. Question, of course, Jack Sherwood clearly fouled Shawnee O'Shea in the 56th minute, and the ref blew him for a touch on the ground. The game, that ball ended in the net. I'm sure if there was a VAR in GA, the ref would have seen this and left the goal stand. But there's no VAR in GA, I don't think. I can imagine how long it would take a fella to go over and have a look, and a whole lot of people around him. It was a decision, of course, absolutely. I suppose afterwards Tina G kind of focused on it as well. It was a chance, obviously you're going to focus on the chances. It's a difficult game to ref, you know,
in the
conditions, and you know, the players are moving 100 miles an hour as well. It was clearly kind of maybe out of the scene. A lot of fellas inside pulling and dragging. The pulling and dragging is it seems to be part of the game. I mean, there's no right, there's no wrong, but it goes on all over the place. If it isn't the forward pulling a back down, the back is kind of hanging on to him as well. Difficult decisions to make, but overall, I think Billy had a fine game.
I was the same after, and I think a lot of people coming out were in the same. They're talking about it as well. Look, referees are going to make mistakes. No, they're one man in the middle of the field trying to look after 30 fit young fellas and a lot to play for. Is a hard game to look after. I thought Billy did very well, and I thought all the refs the weekend. Yep. No, I could see nothing wrong with all of them the weekend. You know, there was often nights we sat here and we were dreading the questions coming in after quarterfinals, but I don't think there was any. Well, always small issues, and the ball hitting the back of the net. In fairness to Billy, he had the whistle blown.
Yeah. Yes.
So
and that's the most important.
The ball hit back in the net. It was not as if he'd gone through a next thing. Yeah, no. So I wouldn't.
I thought all the referees were excellent the weekend, and Billy had a great game as well. But I thought Brendan Griffin Saturday night, there was a little bit of a schmozzle between the Crokes and Dingle.
He just got on with it. He moved the ball.
Brendan ran with the ball. He didn't. Another fellow could go over and give out 3 or 4 yellow cards. He carried the ball about 20 yards. He put it down, and they got on with the game. I thought he showed his experience.
Players move on when the ball moves on, don't they?
Oh, exactly.
It's a bit of common sense.
A bit of common sense, and I thought he showed that. But fair play to the refs. Conditions weren't great, and I think they used common sense. And I think that's a big one.
And I do look, and even inside in the referees' meetings, and I've been at a few of them up the country for the last couple of years, they'll say there's common sense is not in a rule book, but it has to be there. It has to be there.
Here we go, Liam. Another comment. My God, all these Kerry ones. Plenty of comments from East Kerry. Fair play to you. Keep us going, of course. Lads, with all the talk of this East Kerry team, they would be nowhere without the 7 lads from Killarney Legion. But their involvement could cost Legion a real chance of winning the Intermediate Championship. I can see where he's going with it in the sense, as if it's a he, of course. The longer that your club is involved, you can't go back training with your club, and I suppose some clubs, I presume with the districts that are knocked out, they're going back with their clubs training away for their juniors and whatever ends of it. So the longer that they're going to be involved in this, it's going to tie players up. It's
always been there with district stuff. You know, in the last, maybe since the All-Ireland campaign with clubs has come in, it probably has hurted a lot of district teams when teams have gone to semi-finals and finals. They're holding back their players. They're not releasing them to the districts. You know, but I do think, look, if you're a Legion player and you're looking at
a lot of players, 7 out of 30 into it.
You put yourself into a Legion boot or into James O'Donoghue's boots, and you'll say, right, I have a chance of winning a county championship medal here. I'm going to be playing with David Clifford, and this is a good East Kerry team. So they're just as happy to be inside with East Kerry. And I think, did Jerry say in some interview that he released them back last week to the clubs to train to train as well. You know, so I think, look, they're playing. I think the clubs will be happy if they pick up an injury. I suppose that's the thing about it. But they'll be happy. They're playing a high standard of football. They're playing that these guys are as now as if they're out drinking, and they're going to come back unfit. They're going to come back better. And if they come back with a county championship medal, sure, it's going to give them a bit, even a bigger buzz to drive on the club.
Yeah, absolutely. County championship medal is what it's about. Hello, why are the games next week not a double header? What is the reason behind it? Make more sense to have games in one day, and that's Tom from Tarbert. I presume the television cameras will dictate that one of them has to be on a Saturday so it can be on television, but the point is, would it be more attractive to have a double header?
Yeah, it possibly would. I don't know what the reasoning is, Donald, but that's what it is. And in fairness, I thought that there was a great crowd in Tralee on Saturday night. You know, conditions, I think yesterday, it didn't lend well to, and the game being on television affected it also. But look, that's a decision that's made, and, you know, some people will say it's great to have 2 games, and more people would like a double header. So
the TV thing was arranged for one semi-final on the Saturday night, so that probably had hindered it. Now, Donald, there's one thing, all right, I will bring up, and I think we've criticised it here a couple of nights in the show, is the gates. and I was outside the gate myself.
Could you not get in, no?
No, I could get in, alright, but I was just watching it. I thought, look, the stewards were fantastic outside, telling people about there was a cash gate, but I do think, and I might be wrong, but this payment, it speeds it up. It does speed it up for people going through the gate. Good, great, have a cash gate there for people who would, but I do think that a lot of people are getting into the system now of paying before they arrive.
Is that your special pass sorted now for free for the rest of the year?
But I hope I get one in the post now next week for that. Although after all the criticism with the last couple of weeks, I don't know, I'm lucky to be left in.
You should go away on holidays more often, Liam Brosnan. We'll come back very soft.
On that, Donal, I was waiting for Liam on Saturday night, and I saw it
you
myself.
Could see it, yeah.
I was talking to the county board officer, and I actually drew down, about it, and it does speed it up. In fairness, it's a lot quicker. And something that he mentioned to me, which I didn't think about, is that if you have cash at the gate, it means you have to have an escort after, you have to have Gardaí taking this, whereas if it is paid in line, that's gone. That's
and the younger generation, I see all my lads at home now, it's all card and it's all through the phone and stuff like that.
But I think for the older generation,
the gate
you can still pay at the gate, and it's there for them, and there's no harm to tell that.
And they were directing that, and they were telling about the cash stuff, which was great.
Well, fair play to you, because the next comment is, hi Donal, and congrats to the Kerry County Board for helping older people like me with entry to the games at the weekend. Special gate was taking cash, brilliant idea, and I hope Cork do the same. I've been following and attending J Games for over 60 years. Well done to the Kingdom, keep up the good work as always, and that's Tony Daly.
Surely that's my pass sorted.
You're sure you're not OIPs yet? You can't go to that gate. Or is that the gate you're going in paying cash? Lads, I'm delighted for Field Rangers. I was at the 2013 hammering when they only scored 3 points. And Terrace Talk, here we go, said we were lucky to get there in the first place. But this has been tremendous. There's a great spirit in the team. As John said a few weeks ago, they were training while the Listowel races were on. I think Donal is a secret Field Rangers fan, especially after picking Martin Stack out a few weeks ago. Keep up the good work, lads. Well, there we go. Well, I don't know if I'm a secret Field Rangers fan. Like, when St. Michael's Filmore went senior, the first team they played was Field Rangers, but they go up to Listowel, and I think we only scored 3 points that day. They were certainly out for blood. Listening attentively to you as usual, all the way from Waterford. Thanks for an excellent service. Please tell us when and where the semi-finals will take place, and that is Seamus. Seamus, we will tell you that, of course, next Saturday, of course, at 7:15, Field Rangers versus Mid-Kerry. That'll be on television if you can't come all the way down from Waterford. But if you are around the place, Sunday at 2:30 in Austin Stack Park, Dingle and East Kerry. Both games, of course, in Austin Stack Park. Leads on to my next listener. Why are both semi-finals in Tralee? No game given to Killarney. Disgruntled Killarney listener with no affiliation to East Kerry, so that really eliminates the clubs that he supports.
Well, I suppose the one thing with Tralee is the atmosphere. And we everyone agrees with that. I think the atmosphere, even the Saturday night inside, there's the crowd, a big crowd there. There's a great buzz, and I think players feed off that as well. Killarney, big stadium, field immaculate, the whole thing. I think it's just as a supporter, I think Tralee it adds to a great kind of carnival to the
3,000 or 4,000 people in Tralee. Looks like a huge crowd.
It does, yeah.
It doesn't have the same impact in Fitzgerald Stadium.
You could count the people up in the terrace yesterday. Like, you could actually, at half time I was actually looking up, and I got bored. I started counting them.
It was, yeah. The weather, of course, again, it was on television. I mean, is this the reason why you don't put a game on television? People have to go in that gate that two of you are paying the tenner to go into, as opposed to the rest of the people. Geez, you're getting a bit more this night, lads. Listen, more comments, get them into us, 06671236666, or you can text us on 083 300 3300. After a break, we'll be talking about the semi-finals. Now, welcome back to Terrace Talk. Donal Barry here with you until 8 o'clock, and of course we're talking Garveys SuperValu quarter-finals, and now we're going to talk semi-finals. But 3 more comments in. Just wondering, if Dingle reach the county final, will they represent Kerry in Munster? If Stacks are relegated intermediate, who will play championship football with in 23? Oh, it's in 2023, of course. We'll get to that. Don't you worry. That's certainly on the agenda. I personally think that the gap between Dingle and Dr. Crokes is a lot closer than what is being made out. Crokes were missing 2 inter-county players as well as Fionn Fitzgerald. Dingle will test East Kerry. Can see Mark O'Connor starting at full-back, and will he stick to David Clifford? Yeah, absolutely. That's what the whole world is looking for at the moment. Mark and David. Never know, they might. Hi, Donal panel. Most enjoyable weekend of football. Had the pleasure of being at all games. The final 12 minutes of these Kerry games spoiled it for me, however. I thought Kilmare were hard done by some poor decision making in denying Kilmare that goal. And that was Michael Rustin from Skibbereen. Yeah, absolutely, we discussed it there. A lot of decisions made over the weekend. Yeah, the Dingle players, of course, with the County Stars, we mentioned that as well. And I suppose, yeah, you're right, listener. I mean, if you are losing out 3 county players, it's very hard to get up to speed. Lads, one thing that we are discussing, of course, we'll discuss the semi-finals in a second. We'll just kind of take a little bit of time out. The team and players of the championship, of course, this is a big deal with Terrace Talk at the end of the year, and normally we kind of just rock in here the last day, and Liam has it all wrote out in the back of a cigarette box, and John brings in a big book and everything, and we picked Liam's players anyway. So this year, to make it a little bit fair, we're going to discuss some of the players who have made a mark on the championship to date. Obviously from semi-final, final, more fellas will be making it on. Liam, give us some of them. Let's start with goalkeeper fairly quickly. We're not going to say why they're there, but just names on that list, or names that deserve to be on the list as of now.
I suppose for me, Sean Coffey, you'd have Shane Murphy-Crokes, and a guy that has really improved, and I kind of know the reason why he's improved is that Joby Costello's inside with him, and I've dealt with Joby down through the years. Cathal Keane and Listowel for Field Rangers, it was excellent as well the last day. So yeah, I think there's look, you have an all-star in, probably an all-star to be inside with East Kerry. This will be his second game, probably playing with him in this weekend. So
yeah, the truth is, like, I mean, he's played 2 games. You can't say he's in the run for it. Not yet.
Not yet. Not unless he makes dramatic saves now between here and the final. Yeah.
Paul Gideon make it hard for him, or else deliver to him. In the full back line, what fullbacks, cornerbacks? You give us a shot of names there, Liam.
Yeah, you have, of course, Jason Foley did well. Donica Maher from Dua, I think, is really another guy that's really standing out. Pat Kilkenny yesterday stood out for me. Eddie Brown is really one guy that's in the talk of a lot of people at number 3. Brian Crowley from Timpenlow, Shane O'Connor, South Kerry, Chris O'Donoghue, Glenflesk, Potts from Dr. Crokes. We have a nice list of fellas to be chosen from there.
Aaron Connor there too for me as well, and think David Mangan will think. A half-back line out, John, who's been hitting it for you?
Yeah, Patrick Clifford from Timpenlow, Robert Stack from Shannon Rangers. I suppose Tig Morley has been really a rock solid, and Tom Sullivan, inter-county experience. Conor Jordan.
Stacks, yeah.
From Stacks. Sean O'Brien from Mid-Kerry. Paul O'Sullivan from Stacks.
Yeah, he's been good as wing back. Yeah,
had a good couple of games. Darren Houlihan from yesterday really puts his name in around there. Mark O'Shea, Dr. Crokes. Yeah. Then you're going to probably have Ronan Buckley, Barry Sullivan Dingle. Will Mark O'Connor be there at the end of come the final? Is he going to be out around the middle of the field? Is he going to be full back? Is he going to be full forward, centre forward? No, he's a guy that'll be probably around there. No, David Hallisey from Kilmare. No, so yeah, there's
Joe Linehan from Brendan's and Robert Monaghan.
Yeah.
Robert Monaghan was going very well till he got injured below in South Kerry. Actually, he had 8 points scored in 2 rounds of the championship from play. Actually, half hours, a lot of half hours out there. Actually, a lot of very good half hours. John, we'll give you half hours, seeing that you were quite decent there.
Rory Murphy and Fiacre Clifford have had a good championship so far. Barry Mahoney is one of the leading lights for Field Rangers.
Massive, yeah.
Paddy Clifford is Paddy Clifford, I suppose. Daniel Daly, Shawnee Shea, Ian O'Connor, Brian Looney has rolled back the years. He was very impressive for Crokes.
He's a great foot passer, kick passer to the ball. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we saw him on Saturday night when the attack broke down. He was back in the D, to stop the good supply going in. Great experience. Yeah. Mikey Gainey, as we said earlier on, there's Keith Evans. The weekend.
Rory Murphy, actually, East Kerry.
Yeah.
Is a guy that probably started very well. The last 2 games hasn't been his best games.
You've watched a lot of football, hasn't Come here, full forward line, very quickly. Liam.
Yeah, I suppose I'm going to start with half a Corrigan, Kieran Denny here. I'm going to still put that flag out there, Donal.
He's only half of one.
Even though yesterday wasn't one of his better games, but conditions didn't suit him. Stephen O'Sullivan, Timpenlow, Keane McMahon. Then we're heading into the big guys. We're talking Paul Gainey, David Clifford, Dara Roach, Martin Stack. Yeah, Shane Callahan had a good game. He was probably one of their leading lights up front for Austin Stacks.
Keane McMahon
for Dr. Crokes. Yeah,
he's been a nice find.
Stephen O'Brien, Paul O'Connor did well yesterday. There's an abundance of talent out there in all positions, really, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there is, and I suppose the bigger the championship, the more you can see players. I mean, the group stages you saw players. Now you had competitive quarterfinals. Obviously, from here on in, some of these names won't have another game played. It gives fellas a chance to kind of step up bigger again and the whole lot. And when we do get down to the 15, we'll have looked at an awful lot of players before we decide. And there's a nice pick as well. Funnily enough, all the good backs seem to be from North Kerry. Yeah, that's the thing. Is that maybe that's why Field Rangers are motoring along through. You never know.
You're improving again, Donal.
You're improving again. Come here, talk about one of these teams. Unfortunately, won't be improving. Unfortunately, now that's the Austin Stacks and Kilmare Shamrocks. They're going to face each other in the relegation playoff, or in other words, I suppose. One of these, I suppose, players who captained Kerry this year, whether you were in the Joe O'Connor camp or whether you were in the Shawnee Shea camp, they're going to be an intermediate player next year.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I suppose if you were to look at the weekend, Donal, as a guideline, you would say it is advantage Kilmare Shamrocks at this stage. Thought they were very impressive yesterday, as was already said. Austin Stacks, they're out of the championship. The injuries are mounting up. They have an uphill battle, but I suppose there's tremendous pride on the rock, and it's when the need is greatest, the guys they stand up and be counted. But it's going to be a real battle, and the award and for the victors is crucial, is keeping the senior status. And the losers go to intermediate, which is will be a dent to either club. There's tremendous pride in both clubs, and difficult to call at this stage, Liam.
It is, yeah, but I agree with you on the weekend's performances. Kilmare probably have that little.
So just to put it on the record, so when you walk out the door and down Rock Street, which is just around the corner there, listeners,
we'll have to go on by the courthouse.
You're saying that they're going to be intermediate next year.
It could happen, Don.
Well, it's going to happen for one of them anyway.
But I suppose for Kilmare it'll be less of a pinch, because they're going to go back into the district of Kilmare, so themselves and Kilgarvan they'll probably go back in together again.
So they'll be in the championship next year with 13
They'll be in the championship, whether which anyway.
Yeah. Obviously, they're going down one of those teams. One of those teams are going to go a little bit higher. Templenoe and Rahilly's, they have to play each other in the Senior Club Championship. That's on October the 23rd, 3 p.m. Of course, that game is in Fitzgerald Stadium, and of course the game that we discussed, their relegation playoff, that's 1:15 that day as well, also in Fitzgerald Stadium. Wouldn't it be massive if Templenoe won this?
It could be huge, Donal, and there's a real carrot there. And going on the county championship for them, you'll be giving advantage to Templenoe. Rahilly's are not in a good spot. A lot of injuries, a lot of guys away. They'll need to circle the wagons fast. Yeah. And they'll need to improve.
Liam, wouldn't it be such an irony to think that a year on from last year's county championship, Rahilly's could win this game and be representing Kerry and Munster, and Stacks could lose the game an hour and a half beforehand and be in intermediate?
You really don't want us to walk down Rock Street. Yeah, it's just the way the football goes. And it's amazing. They say a year's long time in politics. It's a long time in the GA too.
Yeah,
it's fantastic for Templenoe, Donal. It's not so long ago since they were struggling. They have a great group of players now, and they're 60 minutes away from representing Kerry and Munster. Provided a divisional team wins the championship.
Very quickly, lads, and we're down to the last 3 minutes. Big night, of course, for Austin Stacks in the sense that Wayne Quinlan is going to be nominated and ratified, as presume, at 8 o'clock this evening as the Kerry minor manager. That's a great reward, isn't it?
Huge reward, and Richard deserved. I think it's great to see Wayne. I know him personally, great GA man, doing great work for Stacks, and he's not a former inter-county player, he's not a former county manager, and I think it's great, and it's great that the county board they recognise that, and they're giving him his chance, and we wish him well, and it's a great for us and Stacks, carrying on a great tradition, and I hope that it'll be a great year for him.
Yeah. He's just like Jack O'Connor. Absolutely. Speaking of Jack O'Connor and all things inter-county managers, I got a WhatsApp at about 8:15 last Monday evening. We had the Southern Gales girls on and we were celebrating with them. Kieran Donaghy, Ross Common manager. It was amazing, and of course I was like, oh my God, do I read it out now and do I say it now? Are we the first people to say it and the whole lot? But of course we were talking about football, we didn't mention it at all, and then 2 hours later Kieran comes out and says, it was all nonsense. It was saying, It's a mad world now, Liam, isn't it? That you can get a WhatsApp and something that says it and there's no truth in it.
Well, that's, like you said, Donal, I think the main thing in that is mad world that we're living in, and especially with social media now. Anyone can make up anything and just put it out there and it just travels. And I think that's
Well, just a second there now, I'm getting a WhatsApp in. Liam Brosnan is going to be the new Austin Stack senior manager.
We're not allowed walk past there, not a mind manager.
There might be truth in it. The WhatsApp, it came true, it has to be, yeah.
He didn't deny it.
He didn't deny it, exactly, John. Fair play, John.
Kennedy's working down there now, so he might be closer to me.
So Liam Brosnan could or is not the new Austin Stack manager. Yeah, but that's the way the world has gone. I mean, the WhatsApps go around the place mad now, and Kieran was right. I mean, there has to be some journalistic responsibility. There has to be checking facts, the whole lot. But sadly, it's just not the way it is now. You just put anything up and everything is true.
But to be fair, Kieran ran long quenching it. Like Kieran usually does
because
anyway.
It was Roscommon.
Straight out about it, yeah. So I'd say there were a lot of unhappy Roscommon people above there when they saw Kieran's tweet, because look, he'd be a massive addition to anyone, not to mind Roscommon.
He will be an intercounty manager.
Oh, he will be, yeah, but he's just...
Of no doubt. Now, a man who is a manager and is delighted to announce, and is coming from the MTU Kerry GA campus, delighted to announce that James McCarthy here, is the new senior hurling manager up there, and we wish him all the very best of luck. Yeah, James is going to set high standards up there. If you've ever trained for James probably would still want to play himself. But the very best to look to James. And of course, at 7:30 we'll be talking to people from James's land, Killard, of course, Kilmiley and Ardfert together in Camogie as they won the junior championship. Lads, we're down to the last 10 seconds. Thanks very much for joining us.
No bad, Donal.
In 2 words, who's going to win the semi-finals?
East Kerry and Mid Kerry.
There you go. That's the final word. And John, you can correct him next week when he's wrong.
John.